So today's topic I chose was harnessing your power through words. And it's kind of interesting. So let's see how much this resonates with everyone of, harnessing your power through words. And the reason this struck me was I was thinking of the other day, we are all powerful in some ways, but we forget. And how do we remind ourselves of our power, and how do we actually use our power? Right? So that's where the idea of this topic came. So let me start by saying, as individuals, right, with individual identity, all humans, you, I, everyone, we have a very basic, what I call a ego need, or an ego self need that drives a lot of things we do in life, right? And that need is to feel important and powerful, right? We want to matter, right? And we want to have impact in the world. So the other way of saying this is, imagine just for a second, if I tell you, you are not important, you don't matter. Or if I tell you, you have no power to make any difference in the world. Like, how does that feel, right? Just the thought of it, the sound of it feels uncomfortable, I'm assuming. And so feeling important and powerful, right? Mattering, like we matter, I matter, you matter. And for us to have an impact in the world is something that is a very basic human need. So let's define first, when we say powerful, what is power, right? So dictionary definition of power is capability or ability to influence the behavior of others or course of events. So how we impact people around us, how we influence them, is the only measure of our power, right? So money, status, intellect, all of that at the end of the day is useless if you can't influence anyone. And so, like I said, measure of power is how much can we influence someone or people around us. And influence basically means our capacity to have an effect, right, on the character or behavior of someone or something. And that effect itself, like that we call, so either you have the capacity to have an effect, or you've already had effect, right, which is roughly what we call impact. So influence, which is future, or impact, which is past, that is our only measure of power. And I'm using the word impact and influence a little interchangeably today. So I am important and powerful means what is my impact and influence on others. So today we will talk about how can we harness that power that we have through words to influence. And so I want to basically structure in two places. One, I want to make a case to you for why words. Why did I pick the words instead of any other means of expression? And then I want to talk about how to use words effectively. So my goal is that you start thinking about words, written or spoken, in a different way. Right? Something you were taking for granted, now suddenly you see the power and you see it in a new way. And in short, basically, I'm using, my words to influence your point of view on words. So let's talk a little scientifically and systematically about why words, right? So as I mentioned, influence is power, okay? So now the question is, how do people get influenced, right? How does anybody, you, I, anyone get influenced? You, I, everyone, we have 5 senses, right? Like we have the ears, eyes, taste, smell, and touch. Now these are our senses. Basically, they're the input devices, right? Receive information. And only after we receive information can we get influenced, right? So either we feel differently, think differently, act differently. So you need to receive information, and the only way to receive information is the 5 senses, nature gave us. Now, out of these 5 senses, 3 senses, the taste, the smell, and the touch, only work in close physical proximity, right? They are intimate senses. You can't taste something until it touches your tongue, right? or something that touches your skin, you can't, or smell also has a very limited radius. So if you think about physical proximity of these senses, it's small, quite small. And so for you to influence someone using these three senses, it's only like either you give them food or drink, right? They can taste some other aromatic experience or smell, or something they can touch, or something that physically touches them, right? And since these senses are intimate, they are high risk and highly protected. So chances of you using them, right, to influence others is quite less. Like how often, for example, would you allow somebody to touch you? Or give you something that you're willing to touch, right? Or when would you eat or drink, to taste from random strangers, or smell, or allow them to make you smell something? Probably very less, right? So basically, you using these senses or other people using these senses of yours to influence, is chances are pretty less. So that leaves us with two senses, ears and eyes, right? Ears and eyes are less intimate. Their physical radius is large, right? You can see things from far, you can hear things from far. And since these two are less intimate and less risk, people are more willing to use them, right? Example, you are willing to hear things from strangers, or you are willing to see and read and things written or painted by strangers. Right now, right, you are using only your ears and eyes to attend this virtual session, right? You're not using your taste or touch or smell right now in this virtual session. So all of this to say that people influence is power. To influence people, you have to give them information. People receive information through our senses, and eyes and ears are the most accessible senses that we can use, right, to have influence. So now let's talk about how can we give inputs into eyes and ears. So I'm not a painter or a photographer or a musician or a performer. So I can't create music for your ears or create paintings for you to watch, or performances for you to watch. So that really just leaves me with spoken word, right, to tap into your ears, and written word to tap into your eyes. So literally, words is my only and accessible way of giving you information through your ears and eyes, senses, to eventually have impact on you. And that is how words become the most easy, efficient, accessible, and impactful, means for us to influence others. I mean, this is just like all of this, like what I said, probably you knew it, but it's just another way of saying the same thing, that, words, like very systematically, if you think about it, words are our biggest tools, to harness our power. Like think about the most powerful people in this world who have had influence on humanity. They had that with their words, right? Think about Gandhi, even Hitler. Think about Martin Luther King. What did they say? They used words to influence. Think about your most loved and intimate relationships. How do you create that bond? Mostly through words. So, so I'll rest my case on how important words are. And the good thing is they're so accessible and so easy, and yet so effective. That's the beauty of them. So so let's talk about, now that we hopefully all agree on the power of words, so let's talk about how do we actually use it wisely, right? How do we actually use it effectively? So, both spoken and written word have a lot more than just mere words that we choose, right? Like it's your articulation, your volume, your body, your language. I'm not going to focus on any of that. I'm only focusing on literally the words you choose. So for words, I think of it like an egg, right? Like an actual chicken egg. It has three layers. It has the yolk, the egg white, and the eggshell, right? So think of the egg yolk as your intent. Think of egg white as your content. And think of the shell is the perception, how other people understand or perceive what you're saying. Or so to harness of the power of words and your power via words, you have to care for all these three things equally, right? So let's talk about these three layers: intent, content, perception. So first is intent, right? Intent means purpose, goal. And intention is everything. Right? There are two most important things about intent is one, know it, know your intent. And two, choose kind intent. Always choose kindness. So, have you ever been in a meeting or on a call, for example, when you're talking to somebody, they're going on and blabbering, and you're just waiting, when will they stop, right? You have no idea why they're going on and on. That other person probably does not know what their intent is. Or sometimes have you received a message which was so hurtful, but the person just put a smiley at the end and, completely dismissed your hurt? That person was also probably unaware of their intent, or maybe they were aware, but they did not intend kindly. So this to say, before you open your mouth or to speak words or write anything, you should know what your intent behind it is. Why are you sharing these words? To inform them, to make them feel guilty, to make them laugh, to ask for help, to show off, to hurt, right? To express love? What is your intent? Why are you speaking? Why are you writing? Right? Because if we want it or not, the truth is our intention comes through. Right? Even and then I don't know if you have probably had this in your life. For example, you make a passive aggressive taunt on your closed one or spouse or somebody, and then they retaliate, right? And then you're kind of backpedaling, right? You're justifying, well, I didn't really mean it. I just meant this. Well, what happened? Your intent came through. This is what happens, right? So when we, for example, what went wrong here is your intention may have been to blame them, but you either were not aware of it or were not willing to use your words responsibly, right? Another example is, people are gossiping, right? You are gossiping with somebody, your friend. It's quite entertaining sometimes. But do we ask ourselves, what is my intent in bad mouthing someone? Am I using my power wisely? So because when we mean it or not, we are having impact in the world around us. So why not have an impact that is useful, right, for you and for others? On the other hand, right, let's say you want to speak up for yourself. You want to stand up against a bully. And you don't know what to say to them exactly. But you can borrow courage from your intention for standing up for yourself. Because intention has a lot of power. So intention is powerful, right? You want it or not, it comes through. So you should always know what your intent is. I've spoken about this before, like where attention goes, energy flows. What comes before attention is intention, right? So when intention grows, attention goes, energy flows. So intention is the genesis of everything. And being aware of your intention, I'm going to be honest, is hard, right? Constantly knowing why am I speaking all the time, because mostly we are on autopilot all the time, right? Subconscious is driving us. So being aware and conscious about it is hard work. So it is not like, so anyway, so all of this to say, be aware, it's the hard work, but it's also powerful. So why not use it, right? The second part is content, right? The words, the actual words that we use. Now, if you and I were to assume that we have power, if we were to assume our words have power, and if we assume we have the choice to pick the words to harness the power. What words will we pick? Another way to think of words is think of them as currency, right? You want to spend it wisely. So you're not going to blabber and rant and just, spend away all your money, right? Or another way to think about it is like, when you tweet, or text message, there's a character limit, 140 characters only, or, in olden days, telegrams, right, 10 words only. So being crisp, concise, and intentional about the words we choose is very important, right? And a lot of us in the beginning, as we are learning the art of choosing words, we generally choose words to be comprehensive, right? We want to tell you everything we know. But what the art is, choose words for comprehension, for other person's comprehension, not for being comprehensive, right? So a lot of, for example, if you say everything you know, that is purely informing the other person, right? Like Wikipedia is there, it's informing us. It's not communicating. True communication always aspires to influence. Informing is what you know. Communicating is what they need to know. So information is giving out, right? Communicating is getting through. Information is efficient. Communication is effective. So I'll take a very simple example. So let's say you're running late from office one day, okay? And you call your partner or text them or your mom saying, just literally, I'm running late. That's it, 4 words. This is information sharing. This is an FYI, right? For your information. It's efficient. But when you get home, your partner or mom are upset with you. So your information sharing was not very useful. But you had the power to influence. And so if you knew that your partner feels like you don't care, or if you knew that your mom worries about you, what your partner or mom need to know is that you care for them. That's what they need to know. So now, if you were to think from that point of view and then choose your words, you may say something like, hey, I care for you. I know lately it may not feel that way, but I'm sorry. I'm really stuck at office and I'm running late, and I'll try my best to come as soon as possible. And so please don't wait, and please know I love you. Right? It's a little longer, but you are saying from the place of what they need to know, right? Versus what you just want to inform them. This is not efficient, but it's effective. So when you get home after running late, your partner is not upset with you, right? So you used your words to influence your relationship, to make it stronger. And what happens is when we don't choose words wisely, it is such a waste of our power, right? Why not use our words to build relationships, to grow in our career, to get better job, to grow our businesses, to inspire others to bring out their best instead of their worst? Why not harness our power with the simplest, cheapest, most accessible words, right? Why not? So that's content, right? Choosing words wisely. And the last one is perception. This is the shell of the egg, right? Now imagine you intended kindly, very intentionally. You picked the words wisely, so that the other person understands. You still, unfortunately, cannot guarantee that the other person will understand. And that is something out of your control, right? And you have to know that, and you have to be okay with that lack of control and the discomfort that the other person may still misunderstand you and may still never perceive the way you intended to be perceived. My perception, for example, is all about my prejudices, my beliefs, my values, my preferences, my context. It has nothing to do with you, right? So when I hear what you say or when I read what you write, it is all about my state of mind, right? What I believe in, What context am I in? So a simple example, okay? So you compliment someone, intending very nicely. You say, oh, you look beautiful. And the other person looks at you and says, I don't need your pity. Like, and so you're a little baffled, right? You were complimenting them. What happened was that other person had insecurities about how they look, right? So they perceived your compliment as pity. It had nothing to do with what you said and what your intention was. So all of this to say how the other person perceives what we say is up to them, right? Their context, their beliefs. Another example, let's say, let's say you have not called your mom, okay? I'm just giving you the mom, for example. You have not called your mom for weeks, okay? You receive a message from your mom saying, I love you, I miss you, please call me regularly. Her intent was to express love, and she wanted to tell you how much she values connecting with you. You read the message and immediately think, oh, mom is trying to guilt me always, right? Like she doesn't understand how busy I am. The reason you're perceiving it is because you were probably already feeling guilty for not calling her to begin with, right? And so it's nothing about what she wrote or what her intention was. She wrote very kindly. She chose her words wisely, yet you kind of got annoyed with it. Now, let's say that you have just called your mom last weekend and you're not feeling guilty at all. And now you read the message saying, hey, I love you, please call me regularly. You'll just look at it, smile and say, oh, mom loves me, and you move on, right? It's about your state of mind when you perceive the words. Similarly, it's about other person's state of mind when they perceive your words. So all to say, you really don't have full control of how other people will perceive your words. However, if you want to increase the likelihood or the probability of them perceiving it the way you are intending it, what you can do is you can step into their state of mind. This is where empathy comes in, right? So you empathize with them, saying, oh, my mom lives alone. She's very far away from me. She's my mother after all. She's always worried about me. So you step into their state of mind and then cater your words appropriately. You still can't guarantee perception correctly, but you can increase your probability of perception correctly, right? There will always be what I call the I for India, I gap. The gap between intention and impact. There's always a gap. And as people who are trying to influence, right, as powerful people who are using our words to have impact and influence on others, we have to own our impact. Even if we did not intend it, we have to own it. True leaders own their impact. And the most important thing about all of this is how we speak to ourselves. That is what increases and grows our power and or what diminishes our power, right? So the words we choose to speak to our own selves. So given we have this power to have the influence in the world, and the most accessible thing that we have is words, which are so powerful. So as Spider-Man says, with great power comes great responsibility, right? So it is our responsibility to choose our words wisely, choose our intentional kindly, and then go and have the impact that we all have power to have. So that is all I had prepared, and I realized I am 30 minutes into the thing. So I'll pause there, and maybe we'll love to hear, your